guys, welcome back to our channel. This week we're going to be changing it up a little bit. We're not going to do a cup, but rather we are going to test out some silicone molds that we bought. We purchased crochet hook silicone molds. We're going to give those a try, see how these turned out. We'll have everything listed in the box below. We greatly appreciate all the love and support that you all have shown us so far. Please keep that up. If you have any questions, please ask those below. We'll be sure to get to everyone that asks a question. And if you like this video, please subscribe, turn on that bell notification so that you get notified for any videos we upload, and then like our video as well. Thank you so much. Let's get started. This week we're going to be trying out these new silicone molds, and we're also going to be using a little extra epoxy. Whenever you're looking for a good epoxy to use, I suggest trying several different places, getting the sample sizes, and see which ones you like best. These are some that I had from when I was trying to find an epoxy that I like the best. We're going to be using this up because you paid for it. There's no point in wasting it. Here you'll see me with the measuring cup measuring out the epoxy. I do use one measuring cup each time I measure out epoxy. So I put both parts in the same measuring cup for however many milliliters that I need for that project. For this particular project, I measured 30 milliliters of part A and 30 milliliters of part B, giving me 60 milliliters in total. The first time here, I do 15 of each, so 30 milliliters total, and then about halfway through, I do another 30 milliliters as well. Whenever I am using the same measuring cup to measure out both parts of my epoxy, the key for doing it this way is to make sure you stir the epoxy and mix it extremely well. You have to make sure that there is no unmixed parts of your epoxy whenever you're mixing, so that your project cures properly. If you have any parts of your epoxy that is not mixed, it will not cure. Your project will not cure the way that it is supposed to. It'll either leave your project tacky, or the project will never actually harden properly. I'm going to use this piece of, I think it's a 1x6 that I had from a sign project, and we're just going to line up these silicone molds onto the board so that they have a flat surface and the epoxy is able to set up properly inside the molds. I was just moving them around to make sure that they were in a flat area, because if you know the lumber the way that I do, it's so difficult to find a flat piece of lumber. And I'm going to use a stainless steel stir stick to stir up my epoxy. And like I said, please make sure that you stir your epoxy extremely well so that excuse me if you heard that outside noise. Make sure that you stir up your epoxy extremely well so that there's no stringies, cloudiness, or anything like that within your epoxy. And then I'm just going to wipe off that stainless steel stir stick so I can use it again next time. And now it is time to add the glitter. We're going to be using Cheshire Cat from Backcountry Glitter. And again, we'll have that listed below. And this is a holographic pink. It's very, very pretty. And I'm going to use that pipette to stir the glitter into the epoxy. That way I'm not having to deal with that stir stick again. And I'm already going to be using the pipette to get the epoxy to go into the mold, so I figured I would just use that to stir up the glitter into the epoxy. And also that way I'm not wasting a popsicle stick or anything else as well. Watching the glitter and the resin go up into the pipette was so satisfying. I think I did it 2 or 3 times just to watch it go into the pipette. I was just caught in awe for a moment. And you'll see me maneuver these molds around the other direction. That is just so that it's easier for you guys to see what I'm doing. And I'm going to fill the hook part of the mold first to make sure that no bubbles get into that epoxy. We don't want any bubbles in that hook part so that it comes out right and that you're able to use the crochet hook with yarn properly. And I just wiggle that pipette back and forth a little bit to ensure there's no bubbles getting caught in that resin. This was one of the larger molds, so it did take a couple fill-ups to get it completely full with epoxy. And I did overfill my molds just a little bit, so I had to do some sanding on them to make sure that the back was smooth. But all in all, it worked really well using the pipette to get these full. And overfilling them was not that big of a problem. Here you'll see the epoxy and the glitter going up into that pipette. I don't know why it was so satisfying, but it was. And I wipe off the pipette just so that whenever I'm using the tip to fill up those molds, it didn't get everywhere. So now I have them all filled, and I had a little bit of extra epoxy, so I filled a heart mold as well. Now I'm just going to go lay these in an area where they won't get bumped into, and it's also a flat surface. Make sure you put it on a flat surface so that when they're curing, they cure level. And here they are all done, and we're ready to demold. This is the little heart that I did with the extra epoxy that I had left over after filling the crochet hooks. It turned out so cute. I'll probably use this for a badge reel or a magnet. It turned out really cute. And it's got a stethoscope and RN on it, so it's for nursing. I'm just going to lay that to the side, and we are going to demold these crochet hooks. They were extremely easy to demold down the stick part of the crochet hook, but the actual hook part was a little more difficult, and I had to get a little more creative on getting those out of the mold. And here is one that's completely out. It is a little flexible. I did demold them a little bit early, but that's okay. I figured if I demolded them a little bit early, it would help trying to get the hook out of the mold where the actual hook part is. And it did work to my benefit to take them out a little bit early. I believe if I had left them in there, it would have been a little more difficult to get that part out of the mold. Here you'll see me have a little more trouble trying to remove that piece. Then once it come out, it was fine, and I just made sure that I laid it back down on a flat surface and made sure it was still straight before moving on to the next one. We're going to go ahead and demold all of these, and then we will move on to the next step. I really enjoy demolding resin pieces. It's, again, extremely satisfying. It's like you put all of that hard work into it, and the results is pretty awesome when you take it out of the mold. the larger ones here were a lot more flexible. That is because there's more resin, obviously, to do these. So again, I just make sure that it's on a flat surface after I get it out of the mold to make sure it's straight, and then just stick it over with the others, and they did fine. They are able to harden up just fine out of the mold and turned out beautiful. We only have a couple more to go. The larger ones were a little more difficult to demold the hook part than the smaller ones were. I think I was just more afraid of tearing them up than anything, and next time it probably won't be as difficult because I'll know more of what I'm doing as far as how to get them out, and so I won't be as cautious. And here's the last one. And again, I just straightened this up, put it down on the flat part of the board, pressed it in to make sure that it was straight, and it turned out wonderful. Now we're going to move on to painting the numbers and letters. Each crochet hook is a different size, and it is numbered so that crocheters know which hook they need to use with the project. These are no exception. They have numbers on each of them, and when they're glittered like this, it's really difficult to see those letters and numbers to know what size you need. So we're going to use a little bit of white acrylic paint to pull those numbers and letters out so that they can be seen better. All I'm going to do is put some white acrylic paint on a piece of paper and use a small round paintbrush, and we're just going to slap it on there. There's no particular way that this needs to be done. You just need to make sure that you're covering the surface where those numbers and letters are, and then I'll show you how you're actually going to see the numbers and letters. So the first step, just slap on the paint. Doesn't matter how you do it, just get it on there. And I'm going to speed this process up so that you're not having to watch each and every single one of them in regular time. That way it goes by quicker. And I only used one coat for the crochet hooks. On the little heart mold up there, I did end up using 2 coats on that. But it's a larger surface, so it did need a little more paint. On these crochet hooks, though, they only needed 1 coat, and they were perfectly fine after that. Alright, so we're on the last one. We're going to get that one taken care of. And once they are dry, you're going to use anything really. I used a popsicle stick to... Oh, and there's Bit. Bit said he wanted to come and say hi and help his grandma out with the project. Bit is my daughter's cat, but she does not live at home now. So he's taken up with me, and he has to be my little sidekick all the time. He's checking everything out, wants to see what's new. He tends to get in more trouble than he does anything else. But I love him. He's a sweetheart. Okay, so these are dry. And now we're going to remove the excess paint so that all you see are the numbers and letters. To do that, I'm going to use a popsicle stick. This is just a regular popsicle stick that I got from Walmart in a big old box. And you're just going to scrape the surface of where the paint is, and it will remove the excess paint. It's really, really easy. You don't have to use any pressure. Just the edge of that popsicle stick will remove the paint that's on the top surface, and it'll leave the paint that's down inside the grooves that create the numbers and letters. So we're going to do that for each of these. Look, Bit's trying to help again. He's such a mess. And I think he's going to take us for a little trip here in just a second. He knocks the camera out or away from the where we're looking. See? I told you he's always getting into trouble. Say hi, Bit. He's a mess. So we're going to finish scraping that off, and then we're going to use a baby wipe to wipe off any smears that may have occurred when you are rubbing that with a popsicle stick, and it also helps to just shiny up the surface of that resin again. So we're just gonna wipe that surface off, and it just shines everything up and removes any smears that may have happened, and you can see it perfectly. And there's that pretty glitter as well. That pink glitter is one of my favorites. Again, that is Cheshire Cat. And I'm just going to show you one or two more. It doesn't take but just a second to do these. You just use that popsicle stick and take the baby wipe to it, and it's good to go. I do not seal these or anything. This one here, the 10 millimeter one, did give me a little bit of trouble filling in the one, so I just added a little bit more paint to it and then wiped it off, and it was good to go as well. And here they all are. They all look beautiful. We have all the numbers filled in, so now I will know which one I want to use. And they are good to go. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next week.